Hello. I am nervous because this is difficult and I think important. So, a software was created to help people with their VR chat performance. VOS scans your PC, diagnoses every VR bottleneck in plain English, and applies 26 reversible fixes with one click, like having a VR tuning expert sit at your PC, tell you exactly where you're getting lag in VR chat, and fix it while you watch. Okay. I've already gone through. Yes, I did use Claude Code to try to do a security review. I did the security review in at least like 5 iterations, and then I also had the Claude come up with like just a general design concern thing, which details all of its concerns about the way the software works. A decent chunk of the software was updated according to this PR. This PR has 70 commits and makes 8,703 adds and 8,424 deletions. A lot of these things were fixed. You can see removing many of these things. Apparently PowerShell is no longer used. Pretty much all these things are great. Apparently a bunch of people came in and helped. But what kind of doesn't help, in my opinion, is hardening pass on the render, IPC, and auto updater services. 1 hour ago, May 5th, 12:54 a.m. Mountain Time. I messaged them at 12:36 a.m. Mountain Time. That was 18 minutes before this commit was made. In my document, the security findings document, there are 2 primary concerns. Auto updater verification path, conditional SHA 512 verification plus no authenticode check. I do want to mention real quick, the only reason that I did a Claude Code review like this and gave it to them is because I figured Claude Code would do a good enough job at getting some obvious things. I even mentioned this in the reply to them, that this was literally just like a quick, broad pass, right? And it found a couple things that I thought were pretty important. My assumption was that they would read the document, try to understand what these problems were, and provide them a better and more intentional solution, not just to literally copy my file and then make a commit 18 minutes later. That was not the intention. So please understand that. Hardening pass. In the first line of this commit, tighten everything the audit flagged. Within 18 minutes, presumably, they took my document, threw it into Claude, and basically said, fix these things. Shell open external calls. Shell open external details, source index set window handler. Added a global app on web contents created. Exactly what it said here. Flip the sandbox. Flip the sandbox in this document. Sandbox. Both windows, sandbox true is best practice. Render HTML gets content security policy. You're getting my point. And then also auto updater SHA-12 is mandatory if latest YAML is missing. Populated upstream of latest YAML. Release has no latest YAML. Right. So you can kind of see here pretty clearly, in my opinion, they just took my document and threw it into Claude and then just had it make the changes. And then between then and this was about 17 minutes, which was just updating documentation, including security, changelog, same auto updater paragraph said, SHA, the actual algorithm. So this is what happens when Claude is working in the same context. It'll very explicitly reference things again. So like it's mentioned here, it's mentioned here. If you run this with a new agent, it'll kind of just overlook that because it doesn't really matter. So what this tells me is that they opened up Claude Code, ran the security thing, probably went by, even if they didn't do automatic edits, they still hammered through them, updated the documents, and then presumably 42 minutes ago, pretty much within an hour, they took my random document, which it would have taken them at least 5 minutes to read through this. I hope they read through the whole thing. Whether or not they actually understood all of the things, I don't know. They did explicitly mention, at the end of the day, the dev space is not one I intend on entering or staying in. I don't mean any ill will at all to this person. I'm just trying to look out for the VR space, right? aside from all of the other problems I have with this, I mentioned in my reply about the fix and everything and how I was concerned about the fact that it kind of just seems like they did exactly what I said. They threw it in the thing and made the changes, committed them, and then just merged the commit, updated the software, which means now every single person who has installed the software already has received the changes. So basically, from me sending them a file with security changes, they managed to release the software. So within 1 hour from me pressing enter on this message to now, my security suggestions have been implemented into all of the people's software who used it. I hope I don't need to say any more words. But also primarily that, you misinterpreted what I said. I apologize for not being clear. The fixes applied throughout 2.9 were not done after your message. Rather, were in the works for a few days at this point, as input from Vixen and Roll the Red was accumulated. I pushed tonight a Band-Aid fix from something I did actually miss, which was the auto-updater verification path. Regardless, I appreciate it. Have a good evening. A Band-Aid fix. These are all changes that I suggested in my document. You made the changes within an hour, and you pushed it all to all of your users. I understand that you might not be in the software space, but if I can just make a comment here. This is the problem with vibe-coded software. This is the problem with having a large influence. The original post where they released this software where it was originally closed source and had admin PowerShell access and basically cross-scripting problems. Not to mention that the auto-updater path thing that I mentioned in there was basically a way for people to, through various methods, push an auto-update that would be malicious to a software that, at least at that time, had administrative PowerShell access. I'm sorry, but like, this can't happen. Maybe I'm autistic, right? Maybe I'm misunderstanding something here, right? But to me, it's pretty clear that the thing you pushed tonight was not a Band-Aid fix from something you missed. It was the auto-updater verification path, right? Because that was part of it, but there's a bunch of other changes that were made here, and this is so very clearly from my file that I sent to you, and you don't know me. And I just made a convincing enough message about who I was, and I also, I'm giving you a heads up, I'll publish these findings tomorrow night around this time, so this gives you 24 hours to at least fix the 2 major issues listed in the doc. This is the exact type of thing that I was worried about starting to use Claude Code. I was worried that I would push bad software. I was worried that I'd be criticized, right? In this case, this person did get criticized for vibe coding. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I think it is important that we understand how bad this is. Like, they took a script, a markdown file from a random person they don't know. I can't verify if they have or have not. Like, I don't have trust that they actually read through the entire thing and understood in depth what changes they were making. They probably saw that I have a mutual friend, which is Roll the Red, who is someone I've known for a while. They know Roll the Red. That's probably why they mentioned Roll the Red. What if I was actually a malicious attacker? I was actually quite literally considering for a moment while doing all of this, what if I gave them bad advice? What if I tried to do my own social engineering attack? I was so close to doing that because I was like, this is an opportunity. It would be interesting to see what happens. It could have worked. It probably could have worked. Again, typically sometimes I miss the mark. I sometimes get too excited about stuff and whatever, but to me, this is pretty cut and dry. Don't download this software. This is Vironix VR Optimization Suite. VOS or VROS, whatever you want to call it. Do not download it, please. Do not use it. Presumably, even after all these changes, with all these fixes and these improvements to security, it is still making a ton of changes to your computer. At least the original version still had like tons of just like registry edits and tons of things that like, who knows if they'll actually do anything. And really, realistically, and I even mentioned this to them, this changes the circumstances of like VRChat debugging reports, like people like VRChat developers trying to debug problems with people's computers, and like this is in almost the same vein as like using client mods, right? Because you're changing the behavior of the system. You're introducing so many variables. Also, it mentions here and applies 26 reversible fixes with one click. Part of the security audit that Claude found just by itself, and I asked it to re-verify, and Claude is really good at like re-verifying what it said was wrong. And if I ask it to do it 3 or 4 times, it means it's pretty accurate. Pretty clearly said at some point that like there's no clean uninstall story. This was made version 2.0. You can still see it here, version 2.8. Like this was here before they pushed that change. It's not reversible. Claude says it was not reversible. Like if someone uninstalls it, the fix engine has per fix undo actions, but they only run if the user explicitly undoes each fix in the UI, right? I don't know if this was fixed. I don't care to check, because at this point, it's proven to me that this person is not trustworthy. And I'm not saying that lightly. Like, I don't like to say shit about people unless there's a reason these days. Like, I've moved past being a little moron, right? Like, you misinterpreted what I said. I did not misinterpret what you said. I read it pretty clearly, and like typically when I send a message, I reread it, and I read pretty fast. I reread it. They started replying to me when I got to like here. Please just don't install the software, and please just, that's all I can say. Don't use the software. Thank you.